Dear Mr. Chairman of the Jung-Stiftung, dear board members of the Jung-Stiftung, dear colleagues, dear Thomas. Thanks, by the way, Thomas, for your words that were much too kind. I have to say I'm delighted and honored to receive this prestigious Ernst Jung Gold Medal for Medicine 2022. I am grateful of the Jung-Stiftung for recognizing the work of the great team of scientists and physicians with whom I have had the good fortune to work in Paris over the last 40 years. I have long been interested in understanding the genetic basis and molecular mechanism of primary immunodeficiencies, inborn errors of immunity, a group of rare inherited diseases that cause severe infections, autoimmunity, allergy, and inflammation, and cancer. Thanks to the development of genomics-based tools, my colleagues and I have been able to decipher many genetic defects underlying these inborn errors of immunity. This understanding of these disease mechanisms contributed to a more accurate diagnosis and helps to identify the role of key molecules in lymphocyte development and function. Last but not least, it opened up the field to development of gene therapy, as Thomas kindly said. The concept was elaborated in the early 1970s by many other people, not by me, mostly people in Ted Friedman in the US. So it paved the way for the use of retroviruses, a kind of viruses, as vectors, Trojan horses if you like, to introduce a functional copy of the gene of interest into diseased cells. In the early 90s, my colleague Geneviève de Saint-Basile and I discovered that severe combined immunodeficiency X1, this is the name of the disease, I'm sorry for this complicated name. This is a devastating condition causing death due to uncontrolled infections during the first year of life. So this disease could be partially relieved, as said by Thomas, by a chance somatic reversion event in lymphocyte progenitor cells. This observation of a form of natural gene therapy convinced us to engineer ex vivo gene transfer into hematopoietic progenitor cells, so cells from the bone marrow, that were harvested from children. This was successfully achieved after several years of laboratory work from 1919 onwards with my colleagues Marina Cavazzana and Salima Hassenbeh Abina. Nevertheless, this first generation, so the first type of vectors or viruses we were using, were also a little bit toxic. So they cause, unfortunately, leukemia in some cases. So huge efforts by scientists all over the world have led to the development of a new generation of vectors that we and others have safely and successfully used to treat several diseases of the blood. This achievement gives us reasonable hope that gene therapy will enter the armamentarium of the treatment of several genetic disorders of blood cells. As you know, gene therapy is now also being tested with some success in the treatment of some forms of cancer and other inherited conditions. I am very proud and delighted to see the work recognized by this medal 24 years after I received the Ernst Jung-Preis here in Hamburg for earlier achievements. It sends a very strong signal that a bedside to bench to bedside approach to medicine can work, an approach that we try to implement at the Imagine Institute for Genetic Diseases in Paris. I could not end this speech without emphasizing the commitment of our patients and their families to this endeavor. Without their support and generosity, we would not be standing here today. Lastly, I again profoundly thank the Jung-Stiftung for awarding this medal to me. It is also a great chance to provide me with the opportunity to have a young scientist to work with me for another year on how the immune system works several decades later after transplantation or gene therapy. I am thus particularly indebted to the repetitive recognition of work by the Jung-Stiftung, a strong encouragement for me to continue despite aging. Thank you very much for your attention.